Hello students, this is your professor from Java programming class, and I would like to, and this is part of the last and final lecture of the class and object. So let's take a look at some of the features of a class where I can incorporate a static instance variable. So first of all, let me explain what a static variable would do. A static variable is a variable that would exist in the objects that you create. Okay, so in this example I created this class called employee1, which is very similar to what you had seen before, the first name and the last name, but only thing I added over here is a static integer called count. Okay, so initially the count is set at 0, but look at what I'm doing here. So I have a constructor called employee where I pass two string arguments, first name and last name. Okay, so I assign my first name and last name to this private variables instance variable that I defined, but then within my constructor I also increment my count. So every time I would create an object out of the type employee1, I would increment my count, which is going to tell me exactly how many objects have I created. All right. And then I have a system out printf employee constructor with the first name, last name, and a count. And then I have my get first name, get last name, and also get count. So these are my three methods. Now remember, over here I do not use a set value because my set value is actually coming through this public employee1 constructor where I'm passing this value. So I really do not have any option of setting my first name or last name other than by passing it through this parameter. All right. So let's take a look at the employee test 1. Now this is where I created an employee 1 test. I have a main method, and then I have a statement which basically says this is my employee count before instantiation. Okay, because I have not created any object yet. I just said employee1.getCount. Okay, employee1. I did not create any object as yet. So I'm just trying to see if there is anything of a count from this class that I have already defined over here. So I'm expecting really at this point is 0 because that's what I'm expecting. However, once I create this object E1 and E2, okay, then I would also keep a count. So the first time I create my E1, it's going to give me ++1. The second time I create another object and pass, this is my first name and the last name. This is my first name and the last name. So every time I would create this, I would actually increment my counter over here, which is my ++ count. Okay, so let's run this program to see how it's running. So very simple. So if I look up, so before instantiation, this is what I got. Okay, everything is at 0. This is before instantiation. Now I created these two classes, and then I say, okay, employees after instantiation. So that's my employee constructor. Remember, my employee constructor is coming from right over here. Okay, so every time I use this employee1 system out printf, I'm getting this employee constructor. Okay, so employee constructor, the first person is Carrie Dexter, and my count is 1 because I had created my first object. The second time I use this E2, again E2 get count, that's when I say employee constructor Ken Williams count 2. And then I say, okay, system out after instantiation, I say E1.get count. At this point you have 2. E2 get count. At this point you have 2. Okay, so this is after we instantiate. So this is basically your and then your employee get count, this is 2, and employee 1 is Kerry Dexter, employee 2 is Ken Williams. So basically this is my employee count if I do it from here, and employee 1 get count, and then my first name E1, last name E2, first name E2, last name. All right, so simple example. And in this one I am creating something where it is a package data test. So as you can see over here, this is my object out of the package data class. So after instantiation, I would actually write my package data, and my package data number is 77, and my package data string is goodbye. So of course I also have a package data. Let me grab that package data for you. Actually, my bad. It's not the package data is not written out separately. I just realized that. This is my class package data. So I'm writing my package data test and the package data all in the same place. And this my package data, what I'm referring to is actually this class right here. Okay. So this package data, and this is the name of the object. This is where initially I have a number, and then in a string I have hello, and then I have a public string to string method where I'm going to return the number and the string, so number and my string. Okay, so this is when I first create my package data. Okay, now once I run this, I said after instantiation. Okay, so there is something after where now I actually reach out to the number which used to be 0 and the string which used to be hello, and I'm going to put in the value 77 and goodbye, and then system out print line after changing the value, and I'm going to print my package data. So it's basically showing you that this is what you get before you actually assign the value, because its constructor is picking up on this one where I have an integer and a string value initially, and then I assign by using the package object dot the access that I have created for this instance variable and the string. So string now is going to change to goodbye. So now if I run it, you will see that this is what you see. So the first time, this is the value that you see, number and string is hello, and after this is the value that you see, which is 77 and string is goodbye. Right? Last but not the least is a program where I show you that there are, all this time you had seen how I have created a class and then created an object and then used the methods that I have written within the class to use in that object, or sometimes in the test data. Over here I'm going to use some data, or I'm going to use some method which is actually going to be coming from these classes right here. So this program is showing that another way to use some of the library methods are by importing my class and then using the objects and the methods that are included in these classes. So I bring in my math.bigdecimal, and then I also use my number format class. So let's see what we are doing here. So I have my big decimal, and I'm creating an object called principal, and I'm saying big decimal dot value of, so this is the method that I have, and I'm passing this as my parameter. So if I open up my class called big decimal, I will see that there is a big decimal class, and there must be some method there which is called value of. Okay, so I am taking this value in and storing it as a principal. And then the same thing, the big decimal also has a value of where I can pass in a decimal value which would be defined as my rate. Okay, and then I'm using my system out print line. This is my S20S, so year, amount of deposit is the spacing that it's calculating. And then I'm writing a for method with starting with year 1 all the way up to year 10. If you want, you can even go up to 30. And then I'm saying amount. So again, this is another variable that I'm creating which is of the type big decimal, and in this one I'm going to use this method. Okay, so the first one is power to the power year, which is associated with add big decimal dot 1, and then you're going to use the rate. So this is my rate, and then this is my principal. So basically the formula is you multiply the principal times rate with adding the number of years that you would use to calculate the value. It's a compound interest calculation that you're doing. So basically this is your calculation, and then you have a system out print line, and you're using this get currency instance, which is another method which is written in the number format, and another method called format. So the value that you're going to get, you are going to use this method called get currency instance. Okay, so let's run this and see how this is going to run by using the methods out of the class. So this is your method that you're running. So year 1, if you deposited your initial value as 1000, then year 1 this is 1050, and the end of 30 years you're now growing your money up to 4321.94. Okay, so this is compounding, and this is how much you would get at the end of 30 years. With this, this is the last lecture which concludes the concepts of classes, objects, where we use this reference, where we use the enum, where we use some throwing or catching some of the try-catch exceptions, or try-catch loops, where I would actually try out certain values, and then also show you some of the package data, how they are accessible. We also at the very end looked at creating some static variables and how it can help you maintain certain counts in some of those examples that we have seen in the video. Thank you.